are pretty solid. I mean, I joke, and it's funny because it's true. I met that Pat Buchanan at my bris. And so
hopefully he didn't perform the bris.
No, I have friends who think that maybe this explains some of his problems with Jews. It's like, my God, what do these people do? And then in the run up to in 2015 and 2016, I was one of many conservatives who was deeply troubled by Donald Trump and thought this was a bridge too far, and was troubled by the rise of pop.
He was one of many conservatives that was deeply troubled by Donald Trump, you see. We were just talking about the diversity of human reaction.
Populism on the right, and then the ranks of people who saw the world the way I did shrank quite rapidly over time until it was me, David French, and maybe a dozen or so other people. Written 3 books. I'm very interested in intellectual history, particularly conservative intellectual history, and I'm a syndicated columnist. Been writing for the LA Times for about 17 years, I think, and
you have the Dispatch. Your main platform now is the Dispatch, which you co-founded, right?
And thank you for bringing that up, because my co-founder would scream at me if I didn't mention it. Yeah, a couple of years ago, Steve Hayes and Steve was formerly the editor of the Weekly Standard. We launched the Dispatch, which is a unabashedly right of center but fact-driven place that is trying to prove that you can do honest, serious reporting and analysis from the center right without doing a lot of the fan service you see on a lot of the parts of the right. In some ways, when I try to explain it to people of a certain age, I compared it a little bit in terms of the editorial philosophy to the New Republic in the 1980s and early 90s. You knew it was coming from a generally liberal perspective, but it also had, in a more classical sense, a liberal attitude of rejecting sort of cant and piety, of being willing to call BS on its own side, and trying to do reporting with some famous failures, but trying to do reporting that was trying to engage in making serious arguments that took the other side's arguments seriously. And that's sort of the spirit that we would like to have at the Dispatch. It's going very well. We're leaving Substack soon because we launched on Substack as a full publication. But since our launch, I believe it's still true. Maybe there's something going on in the last 6 months I haven't looked at, but since launch, we've been the #1 revenue generating product on all of Substack, and it's gone very, very well. And we've assembled a great team of about 25, 28 people, and we're growing even more every day.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Though I do think it's a troubling sign of the times that we're all having to rebuild civilization in this piecemeal way on our own. And we'll talk about the failure of institutions, which I know is a concern we share. But one of the reasons why I like you putting your conservative bona fides up front is that, one, I don't have them, right? I have been traditionally a liberal. I have never voted Republican for anything, on any point, I don't think, certainly not for president. And yet I'm often attacked as a partisan whenever I say anything negative about Trump. And my argument has always been that there really is nothing intrinsically partisan in noticing his unfitness for office and the corrosive effect he's had on our politics.
Wait, so I'm completely partisan. I never voted for a Republican, and I probably never will. But how come all these motherfuckers are accusing me of being against this guy because I'm a partisan?
Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anything, on any point, I don't think. Certainly not for president. And
no.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why I like you putting your conservative bona fides up front is that, one, I don't have them, right? I have been traditionally a liberal. I have never voted Republican for anything, on any point, I don't think, certainly not for president. And yet I'm often attacked as a partisan whenever I say anything negative about Trump. And my argument has always been that
What?
there really is nothing intrinsically partisan in noticing his unfitness for office and the corrupt.
He's really difficult to digest, isn't he?
Yes.
It's just emotionally painful.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the thing Sam Harris hates, and I might be confusing him with someone else, but the thing Sam Harris hates Donald Trump the most for is he wouldn't show up to the one ceremony where he transfer the.
You know what? I don't have a memory of a time when I felt like Sam Harris said the number one thing he doesn't like about Trump in a specific way. But he always says it's because he's not, like, he says he's temperamentally unfit. So what he means by that is he's just like a straight up evil person. And like the average pleb would do a much better job than him for that reason, on that metric alone. You see, he's using the lexicographic rule of decision making, you see, but his lexicographic rule for that decision for him is how pure is someone's moral compass. And to him, Trump is the worst of the worst when it comes to that, according to him.
What is his reasons for thinking that he is so evil?
Ooh. Yeah, even worse than Osama bin Laden, according to Trump.
Has he said he's worse than Hitler and shit?
I mean, he said he's worse than Osama bin Laden. Come on. Osama bin Laden did 9/11.
Yeah. And countless of other things probably back in his own home country. But
right. Although he was apparently quote unquote nice to his fellow Muslims, which next to doubt. But
that's what Sam says.
Yeah, that according to Sam, which
I'm sure he was nice to some of his fellow Muslims.
Dude, right? Like that's any idiot could figure that out. And there's also no way he was nice to every Muslim. Like, that's not fucking possible. He was a gangster, okay?
Not every Muslim agreed with what he did. So
duh.
The ones who disagreed with him.
He was not nice to them.
I'm guessing he probably wasn't very nice to those people, yeah.
Yeah. But Trump, it's just a much more morally.
I mean, Trump might not be very nice to them, but at least he's not going to, like, chop their heads off with a machete or tell somebody to or something.
Or even stand silently by while somebody else does. Unless, like, he would get his head cut off, too. But he's way more immoral of a person, just personally, than Osama bin Laden, Deidra. Because free will doesn't exist.
No. I don't agree with that statement.
Yeah, good. You don't agree with that statement, or you don't agree that that's what Sam Harris thinks?
I don't agree with that statement.
Thank God. Okay, yeah, we're on the same page then. He tries to defend it, that opinion, in the We should inception into the Triggernometry episode where he fucking tries to defend saying that Donald Trump is worse than Osama bin Laden. He said some shit like it's just objectively true or something. He said it sounds like hyperbole, but it's not.
High-minded moralist. What does high-minded mean?
It means he's got the notion.
The first time you made a sale online was also the first time you heard of a town named
Dinosaur. We just got an order from Dinosaur, Colorado.
starting.
Did they say a town named Dinosaur?
Oh,
Your capacity to be offended
this is unacceptable. Dude, ADHD much? Dinosaur. Dude,
Dinosaur.
please don't click the link. It's in Moffat County. Okay?
Colorado.
Yeah. Okay. We know we want to visit Colorado. We already know that. Okay. Also, fuck Colorado. They're fucking blue state. Okay.
They have legal weed.
Yeah, Colorado is great in some ways. But I do love me some Colorado, but still.
This.
No, dude.
Skipping to the chapter.
No.
What? Were you just want to watch the whole thing up to it?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's super good content, and and we haven't done a proper reaction to it.
is not something that anyone need or should respect in you.
You were calling for Twitter to shut down Trump's account, and
Yeah.
were happy that it happened.
Yeah.
That's a very different position to pretty much everybody else. Why did you take that position?
Trump University as a story is worse than anything that could be in Hunter Biden's laptop, in my view. That's just a conspiracy. That's a left-wing conspiracy to deny the presidency to Donald Trump. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, but I think it was warranted.
But Sam,
You can't do that, son. You've got to be fair.
Most people in our society, even if they're nominally religious, really are struggling to find meaning in their day-to-day. But when you look at just the hour-by-hour increments at which life is doled out to us, you're cast out of deep sleep or the phantasmagoria of dreams. When the alarm goes off in the morning, and how do you feel about your life, and what is going to give you moral urgency and meaning? Millions and millions of people found it at specific moments in our recent history. Like George Floyd killing was certainly one of those moments where it's like, okay, enough is enough. This is my religion.
A political movement is not a religion, though.
It is, but it's a shitty religion usually.
It can't give you it will never give you enough. Like that's
It is. So it's. I agree that it's never on the same scale, or almost never on the same scale as religion, but like they're not qualitatively different. So what I would say is that when there's a line between there's a line that separates political movements from religions, but that line isn't a qualitative line, it's a quantitative line. Of every political movement that gets big enough becomes a religion. That's what I think.
I don't know. I guess we would have to define religion then.
Yeah.
It can't just be something you believe in.
Unfortunately, that's basically what it boils down to when you look at the real definitions of these things.
I don't agree.
You don't?
No.
Well, have you looked at the definitions carefully?
I don't really care what the definitions say. I don't agree that a religion is just.
Well, what's your definition of a religion then? Take your time.
I guess they are pretty similar or something.
Did you know that you can ask guests your questions?
That's right. When you join Opportunity, the co-founder of Norcod, Simon Kelly, Julie Iman, Trevor Fitz, Carl Ben,
The biggest thing there.
our locals get new and about to release, you get monthly.
Click the link below. .com
We'll see you there.
of Triggernometry on the road from the USA. I'm Francis Foster,
I'm Konstantin Kisin.
and this is a show for you if you want honest conversations with fascinating people.
Delighted to say our brilliant guest today is a neuroscientist, philosopher, and one of America's and the world's most prominent public intellectuals, Sam Harris. Welcome to Triggernometry.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, great to be here.
It is great to have you on the show. We mentioned that usually when we start the show, we ask our guests to introduce themselves. You're well known enough that you don't need to do that. But what we did want to talk to you about, which is what we've been asking a lot of our guests on this trip in the US, is how are you who you are? Because you've done things that most people wouldn't do, or wouldn't want to do, would be scared to do, calling out some ideologies that people are afraid to call out. That takes courage, but it also takes determination. It takes something. Why do you have that something? How did you get it?
It's a hard question to answer. I mean, I think there's one algorithm I'm running more than most, which is
Maybe you should just play it on not full screen. That's annoying though. Don't understand why it's glitching.
Our guests to introduce themselves. You're well known enough that you don't need to do that. But what we did want to talk to you about, which is what we've been asking a lot of our guests on this trip in the US, is how are you who you are? Because you've done things that most people do or wouldn't want to do, would be scared to do, calling out some ideologies that people are afraid to call out. That takes courage, but it also takes determination. It takes something. Why do you have that something? How did you get it?
It's a hard question to answer. I mean, I think there's one algorithm I'm running more than most, which is, what I would call intellectual honesty, right? And so the burden is not to be who you were yesterday. The burden isn't to join some tribe who you'll get social reinforcement from for conforming to. So it's insofar as I'm continually just trying to figure out what's true and what's consistent with what I claimed was true 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago, that causes me to just bump up against taboos and blasphemies and ideologies that are more rigid than that, right? I mean, really, it's. I mean, even having an identity itself is too much. It's like you not only can you not really conform to a tribe, you can't really even conform to who you were yesterday if your master value is to be honest and rigorous and available to new data and new arguments and new insights.
That's a very good.
Just because information is new doesn't mean it's correct.
Right.
So just you don't have to throw out what you knew yesterday because you want to be available for new information coming in, because that's a bias towards new information and a bias against old, as if old information is inherently less valuable than new. The new information has to be correct, and the old information should be just as tried and tested as the new information that you're intaking, and you shouldn't replace the old information unless the new information is not only correct but makes the old information incorrect. That might not be the case. You also need to check to make sure that they don't just work together and there isn't some kind of nuanced situation, or if they're not completely related at all, even if they seem like they might be related and counter to each other, they might not be at all. So all of these things, all of this, if you are, I mean, what did he say? Your bias should be.
Your master value is to be honest and rigorous and available to new data, new arguments, and new insights.
Yeah, I don't think that you need to What's he saying?
are more rigid than that, right? I mean, really, it's. I mean, even having an identity itself is too much. You know, it's like you not only can you not really conform to a tribe, you can't really even conform to who you were yesterday.
What does conform mean? Exactly. Agree. Does he mean agree?
He means obey.
Obey who you are.
Right. Or your values or something. If you have standards and you obey your standards, aka you conform to them, he's saying you can't have standards because your standards can't be perfect.
I don't think that's what he's saying. I think he's saying you need to change, be changing your standards all the time.
Yeah, well, what I like to say on this topic, on this subject, is that we must at all times be willing to sacrifice what we have for what we may become.
Yes, but it's important to know when you should do that and when you should not.
Correct. That's where wisdom comes in.
Your inclination shouldn't. You really shouldn't be swayed one way or another towards change or away or towards staying the same. You should be trying to be in the middle as much as possible.
Not even in the middle. You should just be trying to get it right. Like whatever will result in the best outcome for you, that's what you should be trying to do, essentially.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean. You shouldn't have bias towards changing or towards staying the same.
Yeah, you should have a bias towards
whatever
your own happiness, maximizing your own happiness in the long run.
You should have a bias towards learning whether you need to be changed or stay the same in any given moment.
Or you should have a bias towards what?
Knowing whether you should change, knowing correctly whether you should change or stay the same in any given moment.
So you're saying you should have a pro-judgment bias.
Pro-good judgment, yes.
Right. A pro-wisdom bias and a pro-judgment bias.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is like basic level shit, but lots of people need to hear it, unfortunately.